Back in the book of Luke tonight, Luke chapter 4. We get down around verse 31. It says, Then he came to Capernaum, a city of Galilee, and was teaching them on the Sabbath. So Jesus was once again found in the synagogue on the Sabbath. He's teaching, he's preaching, he's telling them things, and they were astonished at his teaching, for his word was with authority. And now in the synagogue there was a man who had a spirit of an unclean demon. I want you to get this, because I never really paid attention to this before. In the place of the synagogue, in the place where the preaching occurred, in the church, if you will, and there was a man with a demon. He was at the synagogue. He was there. Here's the thing I don't get, We've done a lot of work in the past with evangelism, with bus routes, with getting out and trying to get people to church. And I've heard so many people say, well, those aren't exactly the type of people we want at church. Or why don't we try to reach this crowd? Or why don't we try? I wish people would understand that when we get to heaven, there's not going to be separate parts. We're all going to be there praising together. Just saying. But the idea that certain people are acceptable and certain ones are not, or we want this type or we don't want this type, What I read here is this guy with the demon was in the synagogue where the preaching was occurring. He was there where the Pharisees taught. He was there where God's word was laid out. Oh, but this Sabbath, a man named Jesus showed up. Jesus began to speak, and he spoke with authority. And it tells us that the man with the demon cried out with a loud voice. He says, "Let us alone. What have we got to do with you, Jesus of Nazareth? Did you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Unfortunately, a lot of us have never met him. We've never had an experience with him. Oh, we got some religious language. We've got some religious words or a religious background, but we've never truly had an experience with Jesus. One thing about it, when Jesus showed up in the midst of this place, oh, that devil recognized him. That evil spirit knew exactly who he was. He couldn't stay there. Jesus rebuked him, told him, "Be quiet and come out of him." And the demon threw him in their midst, and he came out and didn't hurt him. He couldn't stay there. He couldn't stay around Jesus. So here's an idea. Rather than trying to decide who's acceptable for church, rather than trying to figure out who's okay to be there and who's not, why don't we just bring them all? Don't worry about what their demons are, just bring them. And then when we get there, why don't we preach Jesus? Because evil can't stand in the presence of Christ. Maybe then people would get saved. Maybe then they'd become to have that relationship. Maybe then they wouldn't be comforted in their sins. Maybe, just maybe, we would start to see lives changed. And people turn themselves over to God, being redeemed from eternity in hell. Maybe if we would just focus on Christ and not all the reasons we find to separate us, maybe we would see God's church multiply. God bless you guys.